Good morning, Coach. We'll begin with Parker Gabriel of the Denver Post. Go ahead, Parker.
Hey Sean, good morning. Um,
Good morning.
I know it's early. I'm wondering, do you have a sense of, how the operation will impact Bo's off season? Is it a couple months? Is it, potentially training camp? Like, do you have that
I
information?
think I think Parker, um, you said it right at the beginning. I think your first three words were "I know it's early." That's four words actually. I know it's early. Um, no, listen. The surgeon gets his hands on the X-rays, um, and so we have enough information now for everyone, um, and the focus is on the next week's game.
Zach Stevens, DNVR.
Coach, after the game, you said that the outside world has very limited information on Jarrett Stidham, but you know he's ready. Can you just take us behind the scenes on why you believe that and what you've seen from him?
So it started with our evaluation in New Orleans. He was a target for us in the draft. That doesn't really mean anything other than we like this player coming out. I know how he was coached in New England. I know exactly how he was coached in New England, and then I know how McDaniels felt about him when he brought him from New England to Vegas, and then I know reports on how he played, and then we saw him play real time, and then but ultimately, and to answer your question, it's our 3 years here, in our 3 years watching him day in and day out, that you guys don't have access to. And so he will be ready to go and ready for the moment.
Eric Dalala, DenverBroncos.com.
Hey, Coach, wanted to ask you about Marvin Mims, season high in catches and receiving yards. How do you see him step up last night and when you had a couple guys go down?
Yeah, look, they were all right. So the final touchdown was his play to begin with, so he didn't steal anyone's play there. It was a play we had run actually in our joint practice against the defense Friday and Saturday. He ran that same route on Surtain, and when I say like beat him, it was a double move, and we just hadn't called that play in a while, and it looked so good in our joint practice. I'm like, man, that's got to go to the call sheet. And when we did our video the night before, and I put the practice clip up, I said, you're beating the number one corner in the world. All right, I don't care who they put over there in the game tomorrow. We're running this play. So there's a few times, and I'll say to the guys in the booth, guys, we can't finish this game in me not having called that play. And that was one of those plays. Like we cannot finish this game with me not having called that play.
Arnie Stapleton, The Associated Press.
Hey, Sean. Most teams in the NFL, if they lose their QB1, all bets are off, and that doesn't appear to be the case with you guys. Do you not have to drastically change your game plan or your truncate your playbook as you switch over to Jarrett?
I don't believe in your opening statement. I understand where it's coming from, but historically speaking, all bets weren't off with Hostetler. They weren't off in Philly. When we lost Breeze at mid-season against the Rams and Bridgewater won 5 in a row, all bets can be off. They weren't off for Houston this year when Mills came in, and I don't know. I don't know if he lost the game. And so now, I think to your second question, you're dead on. I think the plan's always got to be built around the type and the skill set of the players you're playing with. And so, are there certain things that Bo does differently than Stiddy? Absolutely. And that's where the work begins tonight.
Chris Thomason, The Gazette.
Hi, Sean. Can you just say, how you kind of found out about Bo's injury? Did you see him limping at all? Did he come up to you afterward? How did that kind of transpire and you learned about it last night?
All right, real quickly, he gets hurt on the running play. then we call the stutter Spears. We get the big pass interference, the penalty, and he comes over to then we center the ball. So we actually technically got hurt on his third to last play. He centers the ball for us. And then as he comes over, I kind of chest bump him with, jab him like frickin' A. And he's like, oh, careful. It was, and I'm like, you all right? And he said, yeah. He goes, but man, it's hurting. And I said, what do you got? And he said, my ankle. And I said, all right. I said, you'll be fine, and I jabbed him in the chest again. I said, just enjoy this field goal. And so we come in afterwards, and, at that point, it's, everyone's in there and celebrating. Then I came and did the presser with you all. When I came back from that press conference, Bo, our medical trainer, George, there was a group in my office, and I knew they didn't say anything, but I knew there was something. We always meet after the game and discuss injuries, but that was early, and they said, look, there's a fracture. Showed me the x-ray. So immediately I walked down the hall. Bo was kind of sitting outside the locker room, leaning up against the wall. His wife, his parents, his family there. I think Steady, a few others. And I just asked him how he was doing. Are you hanging in there? And I said to you guys last night, this is a strong-minded individual. Obviously, it was disappointing right at that moment, to get to this point. And so that's essentially what took place after the game. You as a coach, you hope there's a lot of guys that get banged up, and then Mondays are always the doomsday, where you truly get the news as to who is hurt that's going to impact the next week, and who is hurt that's not going to. I'm not going to discuss any of the other injuries. Don't ask me after this question. Not one word. All right. I'm going to tell you Stidham's starting, and that's all I'm going to tell you. And then I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Mike Kliss, 9 News.
Yeah, Sean, kind of along that line, normally we don't find out about injuries until Wednesday when we watch practice. This one you came right out. I was wondering what your strategy was as far as
there was no strategy.
We appreciated that you came back out, but
no, I know. I wasn't trying to send you guys cakes or flowers. But here's what I thought. All right. I would have liked to have talked to the team first, but like half the locker room had left. There's no way that story survives until Monday when I talk to the team. I don't want the team to hear from you all first or any national media first, because that story is going to break in 24 hours. Now, if we were meeting this morning at 9 a.m., I wouldn't have come back to see you. I would have addressed it after the team meeting, and we just discussed it. And I said, well, why don't I just go in and tell everyone what happened? And that seems to me like the smartest and easiest thing to do, and just be straightforward with it. And at least then the players are going to hear that from me on the podium, and not from, some national insider that gets it from an agent, or that gets it from a doctor. You guys know the routine. And so I showered and then just came back in and said, we just felt that was the best way to handle it, relative to really the thinking being our own club, our own players.
Andrew Mason, The Fan.
Hey, Sean, and what's generally your philosophy on a backup behind the starter in terms of how you try to get them work in a given week to kind of keep them fresh and ready to go?
Great question. You get the question of the day. All right. It varies. Like there's some quarterbacks, like in my however many years with Breeze, I don't know if the backup got a crumb. Breeze wanted all the reps. And so the backups, look, believe it or not, there's a lot of, when someone is running practice against our defense, there are a lot of similar coverages, similar route concepts that they got to force themselves to get their reps. And so with the young quarterback, look, Stiddy would take some reps, especially during that bye week before the playoffs began. But in a lot of cases, like I would say it would be rare around the league in a 10-team period for a coach to have 7 and 3. All right. And then the next team period, 12 plays to be 8 and 4. That's mythical. That just doesn't happen. Generally, in a work week, the reps are limited and the starter wants them. And so, but one of Stiddy's great strengths is his mental aptitude and his progressions and understanding plays. Like there'd be practices where, like, I'm looking advanced, like getting pissed off because Stiddy's making our defense, look bad. He's very accurate. He's got a lot to his ball. But I don't think it's just my philosophy. I think there are times when quarterbacks are splitting reps during the week, that means there's a chance that team is considering playing 2 quarterbacks and they're uncertain of the one.
Coach, that appears to be all the questions we have for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join
Perfect.
us.
Thank you.